Hello everyone. Today I am doing my project on psychological science in our society, and I chose to do it on automatic stereotyping. And automatic stereotyping is when you stereotype someone without you really knowing you're doing it. You do it implicitly in your mind, unconsciously. And it can occur from you hearing a certain word or a certain pronoun or even just looking at someone. And this is something basically all of us have done. Um, my study was about a research article that deals with a form of stereotyping that is automatic, even when the person knows that the source of influence on their judgment is occurring, but they still give the stereotypical response without them really knowing. Um, this was done by Benaji and Curtis D. Harden. I have the APA site reference right here. This occurred in 1996 in Yale, and they were attempting to show that automatic stereotyping can occur. Uh, Benaji is one of the leading experts on automatic stereotyping, but leading up to this, the word stereotype was first used in 1922 with Walter Lippmann, and he used it to describe the typical picture that comes to mind with a particular group. So that's a pretty good definition of what a stereotype is. But back in 1996, Benaji was looking to expand on the role of the unconscious processes in our beliefs about social groups. And to do this, she would use a process called semantic priming. And semantic priming is basically when you use a word and you think of a word that comes to mind after that. So for example, using the word prime, a word that you may think of after that is minister, prime minister, or prime paint, or paint primer. So it's like evolving one word with another. So Benazir is looking to show that this thought process of stereotyping can be automatic and in our minds. And the hypothesis was what is the influence of the gender code of a prime on speeded judgments of gender consistent or gender inconsistent targets. So essentially, they would use gender pronouns or non-specific gender pronouns to see what the response time would be for the people in the experiments and how this would show the gender priming effect, which would in turn show that there's automatic stereotyping occurring. Benaji had two experiments going, 68 in the first, 31, the 16 in the second. And similar to TAMU, this involved Yale students who are in like an intro psychology class, and they were required to be in studies, and they participated in this study. So the difference between the two studies, the two experiments, was the first experiment used pronouns such as like he or she, and then you were supposed to think of what would come next. So like for he, father, maybe she, mother, and they would record the response times to see if you were focusing attention on the gender of the target and you were showing the gender priming effect. And in experiment two, they would use non-gender specific words to see if you would use, if they were not used for the primes. So like an example would be doctor, or nurse, or maybe teacher, and then you would record or say what your response would be, and they would write this down. And in the end, both experiments showed that the gender priming effect was prevalent. Their response times were short, and they often were of a pronoun, even in relation of a pronoun that was said as the prime word. The short response times with the prime words show that the gender information can and will influence judgment and therefore cause stereotypes automatically. Both experiments showed short response times with its pronouns, and the gender irrelevant words, the gender nonspecific, both showed that when gender information is imparted on someone, it can automatically influence judgment. And although the strength of such effects may be moderated by judgment task and prime type, it occurs in both experiments, but more primarily when a pronoun may be used. The article I chose was from the Houston Chronicle, a local news source. And this article was about how stereotyping affect the workplace environment, and it talked about how there can be discrimination, harassment in the workplace, and what can be done to stop this. And what can be done is what really relates to this study, which I thought was interesting. They mentioned a solution to discrimination could be diversity training, which is basically applying what happened in the study in the real world. So basically, diversity workshops would be like saying a pronoun or like a role playing a pronoun in such certain situations amongst the employees, and like seeing how it could be uncomfortable and make certain people upset. And this helped the employees understand and be more diverse amongst each other, but they could still understand each other. So I thought it was kind of cool that this study had like a real world application that could be used in the workplace to actually benefit people. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.